This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, how there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutastrophe. Welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe on the state. And on this day, July 17th, 1979, Major League Baseball would have its 50th All-Star game. Despite the fact that the first ever one was 46 years ago, 46 years ago from 1979, there were 50 All-Star games. Reason being, they decided for some strange reason that from 1959 to 1962 to have two All-Star games, one at each league's ballparks, like one American League, one National League team would host, and all that. Kind of weird. But regardless, this was the 50th game. This is the 50th anniversary game, because that game was popular, and I already did on this day about it. But regardless of that, the Seattle Mariners were going to host the All-Star game, which was big because, an expansion team usually doesn't host an All-Star game that fast from their expansion. Seattle was in their third season of play in 1979. However, just to let you know that the All-Star game was won by the National League 7-6, but it was just on the field. Goodness, by one Dave Parker of the Pittsburgh Pirates. That did it all that. Seattle would get the All-Star game in 2001 at New Safeco Field. This would be the second All-Star game indoors. The first one was 1968 in Houston. Well, they played it at fixed dome. And let's not forget that Seattle also had a high temperature of 36 Celsius. So, it was good that they're playing in dome. So, anyway, the rosters. The National League starters were Steve Carlton being pitcher, Bob Boone at catcher, Steve Garvey first base, Davey Lopes at second, Mike Schmidt at third, Larry Bow at short, George Foster, Dave Parker, and Dave Winfield on the outfielders. So there were 4 Phillies, 2 Dodgers, 2 Pirates, and a Red. The pitchers were Joaquin Andujar of the Astros, Mike Lacoste of Cincy, Joe Niekro of the Astros, Gaylord Perry of the Padres, Steve Rogers of the Expos, J.L. Zambito of the Astros, and the Cubs' Bruce Sutter. It's weird that you see Andujar in a uniform other than the Cardinals and Sutter in a uniform other than the Cardinals as well. The reserves were Johnny Bench, Gary Carter, Ted Simmons, John Stearns, Keith Hernandez, Pete Rose, Joe Morgan, Ron Zay, Larry Parrish, Jay Concepcion, Craig Reynolds, Gary Templeton, Lou Brock, Jack Clark, Dave Kingman, Gary Roberts, and Lee Vasily. Well, Bench, Concepcion, and Kingman could not play because of injury, and Simmons was made a replacement. The American League, the hometown American League, if you will, had Nolan Ryan start at pitcher, with Darrell Porter of Kansas City catching. Weird how he was a Kansas City guy, not St. Louis. Yaz playing first base for the Red Sox. Frank White of the Royals at second. George Brett of the Royals at third. Roy Smalley, shortstop for the Twins. Don Baylor, Fred Lynn, and leaping Jim Rice were your starting outfield. Pitchers were Mark Clear of the Angels, Ron Guidry of the Yankees, Tommy John of the Yankees, Jim Kern Rangers, Dave Lemanchek Blue Jays, because the Blue Jays needed somebody. Sid Mungie, Cleveland, Deion Stanhouse of Baltimore, and Bob Stanley of the Red Sox. The reserves were Brian Downing, Jeff Newman of Oakland, Seattle's representative Bruce Bochy, Rod Carew, Cecil Cooper, Bobby Grich, Greg Nettles, Rick Burleson, Reggie Jackson, Steve Kemp, Chet Lemon, and Ken Singleton. So the first inning went huge. 5 runs in the first inning. They actually struck out. Well, Nolan Ryan struck out both Davey Lopes and Dave Parker, but after walking Steve Garvey, Mike Schmidt hit a triple to score him, and then Foster hit a double to make it 2-0. But the American Leaguers came back. Brett walked with 1 out. Don Baylor had an RBI double, and then Leaping Glenn put a 2-run home run off Steve Carlton to make it 3-2. It was just impressive and all that. This was not the biggest All-Star Game home run Fred Lynn would hit. 1983 would be better. Anyway, the NL came back in the second inning with a sac fly by Parker and then an RBI grounded by Dave Winfield. The American League in the bottom of the third got 2 runs with Yaz's RBI single and Chet Lemon scoring on a throwing error by Mike Schmidt. The game went into the top of the 6th when the NL tied it back up on a RBI double by Dave Winfield off of Mark Clear. Gary Carter hit an RBI single. So then Pete Rose came in the pinch hit and then played first base, meaning he was the first player to get played in the All-Star game in 5 different positions. The AL went up 6-5 as Gaylord Perry, future Mariner Gaylord Perry, gave up a single to Yaz and a double to Darryl Porter, and then RBI to hometown boy Bruce Bochy. He was lifted for Joel Sambito. Unfortunately for Sambito, he did his job. In the bottom of the 7th, Jim Rice hit a blooping double with the high bounce off the artificial turf, and then decided off of the bounce to go for third base, not realizing about Dave Parker's arm. So the Cobra unleashed a throw that got Jim Rice out at third base. And then Lee Masilli, former Met, made it 6-6 with a home run off of Jim Kern of the Rangers. And then in the bottom of the 8th, the AL was trying to make it a threat. Brian Downing had a single off Bruce Sutter and was sacrificed by Bochy. Sutter would walk Red Jackson intentionally to get to Bobby Grich, and he struck him out. Greg Nettles then hit a single to right. And Brian Downing figured this was his best chance to score, so he ran for the plate. But Dave Parker took the nice single and then threw a bullet and bounced it. Fielding the line drive on the first bounce. Well, he threw a perfect straight on the fly to Carter, who perfectly blocked Brian Downing from trying to get to the plate with his body. Downing had his right hand ready to reach the plate to try to give the American League the lead. So Parker had thrown out Jim Rice, stretching a double into a triple, and then he threw out Brian Downing at the plate. The NL would score to take the lead as Joe Morgan walked with 1 out, and a balk by Jim Kern made him go to second. Parker was walked intentionally. Craig Reynolds was retired, but Kern walked Ron Zay to load the bases. Ron Guidry came in to face Masilli. Unfortunately, he walked Masilli, and Bruce Sutter struck out the side for a pair of strikeouts to win the game, and the National League took a 7-6 win when the National League was dominant in these All-Star games. So the National League got the last laugh at Dave Parker, thanks to his 2 outfield assists and decent play with the bat, was named the All-Star Game MVP. And that was just one performance for the ages. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do